The fluorescent lights of Penn Station flickered overhead as Marcus Williams clutched his daughter's small hand, his heart heavy with the weight of impossible choices. In his worn wallet, a crumpled $10 bill represented the difference between dinner tonight and breakfast tomorrow. At 7 years old, Emma didn't understand why Daddy's eyes looked so tired lately, why their apartment had gotten so quiet after Mommy went to heaven, or why they were taking the subway instead of their car that had been towed away last week. Marcus had been a good father on Sia, the kind who never missed a soccer game, who read bedtime stories in different voices, who could fix any broken toy with duct tape and determination. But cancer had taken his wife Sarah 2 years ago, along with their savings, their stability, and his faith in happy endings. The medical bills had devoured everything, their house, their car, even Sarah's engagement ring. Now he worked double shifts at a warehouse, coming home to an empty apartment that still smelled faintly of her perfume, trying to be both mother and father to a little girl who asked every night when Mummy was coming home from her long trip. "Daddy, I'm hungry," Emma whispered, tugging at his jacket sleeve as they descended into the subway tunnels. Her voice was small, almost lost in the echo of rushing commuters and screeching train wheels. "I know, sweetheart. We'll eat when we get home," Marcus replied, though he wasn't sure what that meal would be. The $10 in his wallet was meant for groceries, so enough for milk, bread, and maybe some peanut butter to last them through the weekend. That's when he saw her. She was sitting on the bench near the turnstiles, her business suit wrinkled and stained, her usually perfect hair falling in disheveled strands around her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stared at her phone, her designer purse clutched protectively against her chest. She looked like someone whose world had just collapsed, and Marcus recognized that expression he'd worn it himself 2 years ago in a hospital corridor. Victoria Chen had built her tech company from nothing, turning a college dorm room idea into a billion-dollar empire that employed thousands and revolutionized how people connected across the globe. Forbes had called her a visionary. Time magazine had named her Person of the Year. But tonight, none of that mattered. Her phone had just delivered the worst news of her life. Her 16-year-old nephew Danny, the boy she'd raised like her own son after her sister's death, had been in a terrible car accident. He was in surgery at Mount Sinai, fighting for his life, and she was trapped in a subway station because her driver had quit without notice and her credit cards had been frozen due to a banking error that wouldn't be resolved until Monday. She had millions in accounts she couldn't access, a penthouse apartment she couldn't reach, and all the success in the world that meant nothing when the person she loved most needed her. Victoria had tried calling every car service, every friend, even strangers on the street, but it was late Friday night in New York City, and everyone was either busy, unavailable, or unwilling to help a desperate woman who looked like she might be having a breakdown. Marcus watched her for a moment, his own problems momentarily forgotten. Emma noticed too. "Why is the pretty lady crying, Daddy?" "I don't know, baby," Marcus said softly. He looked down at his daughter, then at the woman, then at the $10 bill in his wallet. Sarah's voice echoed in his memory from better days. "We help people, Marcus, even when we don't have much. Especially then. That's what makes us human." Before he could second-guess himself, Marcus approached the bench. "Excuse me, Mom. Are you okay?" Victoria looked up, startled. She saw a man in worn work clothes and a little girl with kind eyes, both looking at her with genuine concern. I'm fine," she lied, wiping her cheeks. "You don't look fine," Marcus said gently. "Sometimes talking helps. I know what it's like to feel lost in this city." Something in his voice, or perhaps the understanding that only comes from real suffering, made Victoria's carefully constructed walls crumble. "My nephew is in the hospital," she whispered. "He might die, and I can't get to him. I have all this money, all these resources, but none of it matters because I can't access any of it tonight." Marcus didn't hesitate. He pulled the $10 bill from his wallet, his last $10, and pressed it into her hands. "Take this, get a Metro card and whatever train you need. Mount Sinai, right? Take the 6 train to 77th Street. Victoria stared at the crumpled bill, then at Marcus, then at little Emma, who was nodding encouragingly. "I can't take this," she said. "You don't understand. This looks like this might be all you have." "It's not all I have," Marcus said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I have her, and she has me. That's everything. Your nephew needs you right now. Money's just paper, but being there for someone you love, that's what matters." Emma stepped forward and took Victoria's hand. "My mommy went to heaven, but before she did, she told Daddy that angels help each other. Maybe you're our angel tonight, and we're yours." Victoria felt fresh tears rolling down her cheeks. But these were different. They were tears of gratitude, of recognition, of humanity in its purest form. She had forgotten, in her climb to success, what it felt like to be on the receiving end of genuine kindness from a stranger. This man, who clearly had nothing, had just given her everything he had without expecting anything in return. "What's your name?" she asked Marcus. "Marcus Williams." "This is Emma." Victoria committed the name to memory, along with the image of this father and daughter who had restored her faith in humanity at her darkest moment. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the $10 like it was worth 10 million. "I'll never forget this." As Victoria hurried toward the Metro card machine, Marcus and Emma watched her go. "Will she be okay, Daddy?" Emma asked. "I think so, sweetheart. I think she's going to be just fine." They rode the subway home in comfortable silence, and that night, Marcus made dinner from what little they had in their cupboards: crackers and the last can of soup. Emma didn't complain. Instead, she told him how proud she was that they had helped the crying lady, how Mummy would be happy that they were angels for someone who needed them. 6 months later, Marcus was working his usual shift at the warehouse when his supervisor called him into the office. "There's someone here to see you," she said with a strange expression. "Says it's important." In the office sat Victoria Chen, looking every inch the successful CEO in her tailored suit, but her eyes held the same warmth Marcus remembered from that night in the subway. On the desk between them was a check that made Marcus's knees weak. "Danny recovered completely," Victoria said without preamble. "The surgery was successful, and he's back to being a normal, healthy teenager who thinks he's invincible. He wants to meet the man who saved his life." "I didn't save anyone's life," Marcus protested. "I just gave you $10. You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that there's still goodness in this world." "That $10 got me to the hospital in time to hold Danny's hand when he woke up from surgery. It was the difference between him being alone and having family there." Victoria's voice caught slightly. "Your kindness saved us both." The check was for $100,000, enough to change everything for Marcus and Emma. But Victoria wasn't finished. "I also want to offer you a job, Director of Community Outreach for Chen Technologies. Your job would be to find people like yourself, good people who need help, and make sure they get it. The salary is $150,000 a year, plus benefits, plus a college fund for Emma." Marcus stared at her in disbelief. "Why?" "Because that night, You and Emma reminded me why I started my company in the first place. It wasn't to make money, it was to make connections, to help people, to make the world a little bit better. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. You helped me remember. That evening, Marcus picked up Emma from school in a new car, and they drove to their new apartment, to a real home with enough bedrooms and a kitchen where they could cook real meals. As they sat at their new dining table sharing pizza and talking about Emma's day, she looked up at him with Sarah's eyes. "Daddy, are we rich now?" Marcus thought about the question seriously. He thought about the check, the job, the apartment, and all the security they now had. But mostly, he thought about that night in the subway, about the choice to give when he had nothing, about the ripple effect of one moment of kindness. "No, sweetheart," he said, ruffling her hair. "We were always rich. We just have more money now." Emma giggled and took another bite of pizza. "I think Mommy would like Victoria. She's a good angel." "Yeah," Marcus agreed, looking out the window at the city lights twinkling below. "She really is." Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes. Sometimes $10 can be worth more than 10 million. And sometimes, when you give away the last thing you have, you discover that you actually have everything you need.